The question is that the House to now adjourn, and I call the honourable member for Fairfax.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise tonight to congratulate the Prime Minister and to congratulate the Treasurer on their recent announcement that Australia doesn't have a debt problem and that we don't have a debt problem in the next foreseeable future. I think this is an important admission by the government for a long time been pushing policies based on the assumption that we have a debt problem. The question now must be, if we don't have a debt problem, what do we do with all the government policies? Because all the government policies are based on the assumption we do have a debt problem. So the admission is much more serious than what one would wonder on its first examination. We need to have new policies from the government, and the budget is a great opportunity to set a new agenda for Australia, for growth, and we need to look at where we really are in the world and let the truth come to the surface. It's a fact of life that Australia has the world's highest growth in GDP in the developed world, 3.3% up to last December, the best growth rate, that we've had no years of recession since 1990, and that our debt is 350% lower than Germany, which is the powerhouse of Europe. We're also number one in the world in the number of Australians going to a university. We're also number one in the world in the number of Australians going to secondary school. So one would wonder what you seek to get from an education policy if it's not participation and a higher education for the people that live in Australia. And when we look at the fact that we've got the world's highest GDP growth in the developed world, we can't avoid the obvious conclusion that that's linked with our high rate of participation at university and our high rate of participation in secondary schools. What's more surprising is our labour productivity. Since 1990 to now, our labour productivity has risen 50% above what it was in 1990, and yet the cost of labour in real terms has gone down to 85%. They're not the perceptions you'd get from the government in the period of this parliament, but they're the facts. They've been published by the Australian statistician, the OECD and the International Monetary Fund, and they've been brought together in the Australian Trade Commission report released in early this year, in January this year, setting out the achievements of this country, of where we are. So the challenge in the future is for what we can achieve. And we've looked at the United States and President Obama. We see how he's grown the US economy and how quickly the jobs have grown. Over $85 billion a month was spent by the US economy in stimulating their economy, equivalent to about $6 billion a month for an economy the size of Australia. We see how that's worked. We see now that the European Union is following that example because they too want a higher standard of living for their people, a growing and expanding economy, increased stimulus and higher exports. We also know at this critical time Australia has been invited to join the Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank, and that Great Britain has become a member already, and so has Switzerland, that President Obama last Saturday in the United States instructed the World Bank to enter into projects together with and collaboration with the Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank. Yet Australia has been invited to become a foundation member and hasn't responded. Yet this is our region. This is $100 billion of infrastructure funds available to be invested in our economy to create more jobs for our people and a better future for Australia. So I would encourage the government to look very seriously and strongly at accepting that invitation to join our allies, such as the United Kingdom and others, in this venture in Asia. We need to have in the budget, when it comes up, a strategy for growth, for visions, for jobs and investment. And this is a great opportunity for the government to rejig itself, to come to the real terms of what's happening in our economy, to provide real hope for our people. So I'll be very keen to watch, and I'm sure all members of this House will be, to see what happens on budget night. And the Prime Minister has a real opportunity to turn this country around and to have all its people from all political parties support a strategy for growth.
The question is that the House to now